All right, let's dive into what has to be one of the most ambitious, most mind-boggling engineering projects on the entire planet. When you think of Saudi Arabia, you probably picture immense oil wells. But behind that, there's this really unsettling reality. Imagine for a second you own a palace made of solid gold, but you've only got 2 sips of water to drink. That's the paradox right at the heart of the kingdom. It is, believe it or not, the largest country in the world without a single natural permanent river. And their solution to this problem? Well, it's just staggering. They're building their own rivers. And we're not talking about some small canals. No, this is a network designed to be almost twice the length of the Nile. And here's the part that really breaks your brain. This water doesn't flow down from the mountains like a normal river. It's being pumped uphill, against gravity, into them. So yeah, that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? In a country that's pretty much defined by its lack of water, where on earth are they getting the liquid for a river longer than the Nile? And how is this incredible feat even possible? To really get what's going on, we've got to rewind a little bit. We need to look at the crisis that forced their hand in the first place. Because for decades, Saudi Arabia was relying on a secret source of water, one that was disappearing way too fast. So it all kicked off in the 1970s. The government had this big, well-intentioned idea. Let's achieve food self-sufficiency by growing wheat in the desert. They threw huge subsidies at it, farming just exploded. And for a while, it actually worked. But, and this is a big but, it came at a devastating cost. By 2003, farming alone was gobbling up 85% of the country's water, all of it pumped from deep underground. They drained those reserves so fast that by 2016, the government had to pull the plug on the whole program. You see, this water is called fossil water. It's ancient, trapped underground for millions of years. It's a non-renewable resource. And using it is exactly like this quote says. It's like draining a battery that you can never, ever recharge. Once it's gone for good. And the results of that whole policy was a culture of water use that was just completely unsustainable. I mean, at its peak, the average person in Saudi Arabia was using over 300 liters of water a day. That's more than double the global average. They were literally burning through their one and only natural water source at a terrifying speed. So what do? Your ancient reserves are almost empty, but your population keeps growing. You can't rely on the past anymore, so they turned to the future. With a plan so audacious, it's almost hard to believe it's real. And this is the heart of it all, a 12,000-kilometer network of, get this, underground artificial rivers. We're talking a series of massive pipes, some over 2 meters wide, made of anti-corrosive steel and concrete, all designed to carry colossal amounts of fresh water across the entire country. And this slide really puts that number into perspective. We're not just talking about some long pipeline. No, this man-made network is nearly twice the length of the Nile. It's an engineering project on a scale that's it's difficult to even wrap your head around. Okay, so you have this massive network of pipes, but it's got to be filled with something, right? It needs a water source that will never run out. And that brings us to the technology that makes this whole thing possible. Desalination, the process of turning the super salty water of the Red Sea and Persian Gulf into fresh, drinkable water. One of the main ways they do this is with something called multi-stage flash distillation. The basic idea is super simple. You heat seawater to create steam, leaving the salt behind. But the multi-stage flash part is where it gets really clever. The steam is moved through a bunch of chambers, each with a lower pressure, which makes it flash and re-evaporate over and over again without adding more heat. It's way more efficient than just boiling the ocean. But the newer and honestly more efficient technology is reverse osmosis. It's inspired by biology. This process uses an insane amount of pressure to basically squeeze seawater through these ultra-thin polymer membranes. These membranes act like a microscopic filter, letting the water molecules pass through, but blocking pretty much everything else. And just how fine is this filter? Well, the pores in these membranes are so ridiculously tiny that, as the quote says, not even a virus can pass through. It's an incredible piece of science that just strips out 99% of all the salts and minerals, leaving you with perfectly pure water. Now, the desalination plants that power this whole network can produce over 9 billion liters of fresh water a day. But turning the ocean into drinking water on this kind of scale, well, it's not magic. It comes with a massive and potentially pretty toxic consequence. The byproduct of this whole process is measured on an almost geological scale. We're talking about a weight that's it's hard to even picture. 329,000 tons.
That is the weight of the toxic salt sludge, or brine, that's left over from desalination. And that's not per year or per month, that's every single day. To put that in perspective, a blue whale, the largest animal on Earth, weighs about 200 tons. This means Saudi's plants produce the equivalent weight of over 1,600 blue whales in toxic waste daily.
And where does all that waste go? Yep, right back into the sea. This super salty, chemical-filled brine creates these huge underwater dead zones that are just devastating fragile ecosystems like coral reefs. So engineers are developing solutions, from these deep-sea diffusers that spread the brine out to an incredible idea called brine mining, actually trying to extract valuable minerals like magnesium, potassium, and even lithium from the waste, turning a pollutant into a profit. But the environmental damage isn't the only cost. This whole operation requires a shocking amount of energy. And that brings us to our next number, a figure that represents a profound national trade-off: 9%. That's the percentage of the entire country's electricity supply that is used for one thing and one thing only: the massive pumping stations needed to push all that water against gravity. It's an incredible energy trade-off, basically burning the nation's fossil fuel wealth to power an artificial water cycle. So let's zoom out. We've seen the staggering numbers, the wild technology, and the serious costs. What's the big picture here? What does this all mean for Saudi Arabia and for a world that seems to be getting thirstier every single day? Through this project, Saudi Arabia has completely transformed itself. It is now the world's largest producer of desalinated water. It holds the Guinness World Record for the largest pipeline network. And in a stunning twist, this desert nation with no rivers is going to host the World Water Forum in 2027. Their goal? To meet 100% of the country's water needs with this technology by 2030. And it all leaves us with this one profound question. Is this project the ultimate triumph of human ingenuity? A blueprint showing that technology can solve even our most fundamental problems? Or is it a cautionary tale of a costly, maybe even unsustainable war against nature itself? The answer? Well, it will probably shape not just the future of the desert, but of our entire planet.